Hi, welcome back to another episode of Cold Stream Rod Stop. I'm Derek Fraser. In this week's video, we're going to keep on working on the Camera Ladies Roadster chassis. There's a few more things, or quite a few more things left to do. Ultimately, now that we've got it on wheels, what I really want to do next is actually get the engine transmission in here. But before I do that, what we're going to do is run all of the brake lines. I have to adjust the steering as far as the travel left to right. Brake lines, master cylinder, a couple other things, but we'll carry on with that in this episode once it comes to me. And then over on Ellie's Coupe, we want to get the door skin patches getting going over there. And then what I want to do is introduce you to the next project that we have going over there. It will be project number 3. So follow along. Well, we're going to start off with working on the brakes on the Camera Ladies chassis. I have a Corvette master cylinder, the one with the dual ports, so basically it has outlets on this side and then also over on that side. So those ones there we're going to plug off. They come with plugs. You can buy the master cylinders that have the ports only on one side. I like the flexibility of buying them this way in case I have to run either side depending on the situation. Now we have plenty of room to run all the lines on this side. Right now it's bolted in. I don't have it permanently bolted in because once I run all of the lines, I'm going to take the master cylinder back out and I'll bench bleed it, put it back in there. I just don't want fluid running all over the place in the short term. So also dug out all the parts that we had that were stored in the Camera Lady's body. When we took it all apart, I put everything in boxes and stored it over here. So just going through everything right now. Even though I've done this time and time again, I usually have my little brake diagram that basically explains Speedway sells it. You can, or not sells it, but they send it with their kits. You can get them online. Just basically explains, you know, where to use a 2-pound residual valve, the 10-pound residual valve, where you put your portioning valve. Anyways, we're going to go through that. Going to make up all these lines. I'm just checking to make sure I have everything that I need, and I think that I do. So anyways, going to dig into it next. Today's working on the brake line for the Camera Ladies Roadster chassis. As I said previously, I had all the components. I eventually found them all. To put it together. I mean, as I said, we started with a Corvette style master cylinder, dual ports, plugged off this side, tightened those down. We're going to come out of the first chamber of the master cylinder, which is always the front. The one closest to the pedal is the one closest to is the front. The one furthest away from the pedal is the rear. I'll come out of there, go to a 2-pound residual valve. Then we've got a T right there with a brake switch onto it. Going to come all the way along. And then what I've done is I've put another T up underneath there, which is going to come out to the left side caliper. And then follow all the way along the inside of the frame. And then again down right there. It's going to come into the right side caliper. Now, one thing when you're putting these flex lines on, you've got to put them on so that they don't stick out or hit the wheel. So sometimes what you've got to do is twist this so that the flex line stays inside here. Any kind of contact, you move your rubber around, but put them in place, then turn the steering box left and right and make sure that the flex line does not come in contact with the rubber. Now, what some people do, they'll do the through frame fittings with the stainless steel line to come straight over here, put a relatively short one on. That works probably a little bit better, but I just go with the old generic rubber brake line, flex lines that I've always used on all my cars and kind of what I took off my old Camaro in the day. But I mean, essentially these are geometric calipers on the front. Quite reliable, easy to get parts for, easy to fix, and all that stuff. So then on the rear of the car, we come out of the front port of the master cylinder, go to a 10-pound residual valve, which goes to the disc brakes, then to the proportioning valve. up through a line. And then what I've done is I've put a flex line there. I got a flex line off of a F-150 with a 8.8 rear end. And I've got the little flex tab there. And then what that does, it mounts to a vent. Now the vent, I moved the vent from where a normal 9-inch vent is, I think was on the other side, but I put it in the vertical position here and then used the 8.8 vent and then ran my lines up over through the clips to the other side. And there's one line going to the back of the drum. So next up, gonna have to bleed the master cylinder or bench bleed it. Then we'll put fluid in the lines and we'll bleed all 4 corners and hopefully we'll have brakes here shortly. So 2 things I failed to mention in my little brake line tour there. Why do I use a 2-pound residual valve? Why do I use a 10-pound residual valve? And why do you use them at all? The thing is, if you have your master cylinder mounted up above where your brake lines will not bleed back into your master cylinder, like on the firewall, you don't really need residual valves. But where the master cylinder is located in the floor here, there's the risk that the fluid in the lines will bleed back into the master cylinder. So generally speaking, for drum brakes you use a 10-pound residual valve, and for disc brakes you use a 2-pound residual valve. So that's why I have a 2 and a 10. On the Model A over there we've got discs in the back, so I've got basically 2 and 2. The 32 Ford over there, the pickup truck, it's the same as this one. The other thing I have to do, I've got to get some brake line clamps. I ordered some. So what we really need to do is we're going to put probably a clamp every 12 inches wherever we can to make sure that the brake lines don't wobble or chafe or whatnot. So now, one thing, I've covered this quite a few times before, but every time I do a brake job I feel like I should show people. To make the double flare or the inverted flare, after you cut the brake line with one of these, this edge here has got to be dressed up. I don't know if the camera lady can see that or not. So that face has to be perfectly flat. We've got to get all of the burrs off of it. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. All right, perfect. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take a file. And I'm just going to rotate. I'll just keep on rotating the tube. That way I can make sure I get it nice and perpendicular, and I'll get all that flare off of it. Even if you cut the brake line like with a mini grinder or a hacksaw, you still got to go over and make that face as perpendicular as you possibly can. So right now we're nice and perpendicular. And then I've got a little machinist file here. I'm going to go inside there and I'm going to take all of the burr out of it. And when that slides in there like that, I know I got it all, so we're nice and clean. And then on the outside, I'm just going to take the file and I'm just going to take the burr off of it like that. So I've got, see, that looks a whole lot better. So that's going to make a really good double flare. If you don't do that, that is more than likely the reasons why your double flares don't turn out. You can, I use this Eastwood tool. I know there's all kinds of people making copies of these, but basically this is a double flaring tool that mounts in a vise. So essentially it goes in there like this. There's a position 0, so you're going to push it so that the tube sticks out slightly there. Lock in place like that. I'm just going to tighten it up a little bit. The first positions the tube exactly where it needs to be. Then I'm going to crank it down for a 3/16 line, which is what we have. Operation number 1, the first part of the flare. Push it in. And operation number 2 for a 3/16 flare. We're going to finish it off. And we should have, at least we did every time I did so far tonight, a nice perfect double flare. So what you want to see an even silver line radius all the way around there. Now if you see it offset one way or the other, do it again. So you can see a nice silver line there all the way around, nice and even. There's a little bit of discoloration there, but that's just the coating on the outside of the steel line that I use. I still like to use steel lines. You can use the nickel copper ones. They are legal. They're a heck of a lot easier to work with, but I'm just old school. I still stick to the steel ones. So then what's next? You want to if you want to do the other end, don't forget to put the second nut onto it before you do it. But that's how I make a double flare. Pretty simple. These tools, whether you get them from Eastwood or whatever, they're just slick. They take just super easy. But the key to doing it, like I stressed, is clean up the end before you do it, and you're gonna make a perfect double flare every time. I hope you saw from the time lapse, taking the panel, clamping the panel on, folding the edge over, and then what I did, I pushed the panel up over the existing one, took the mini zip cut or cutoff wheel, whatever you want to call it. Then I cut a line along here, put my panel clamps in between. That gave me the gap for the panel clamps. Then I welded in between all of the panel clamps here. Now what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to let that cool down a little bit. I'm going to take the panel clamps off. I'll go in between all of the welds again. I'll let it cool. In between all of the welds, let it cool. I know different people have different approaches. I know if I used TIG and I had a super tight gap there, I could just go right in between all of that and then weld it. But with the metal being, not the best, it's good enough to weld with the MIG, but I know that if I started using TIG, it doesn't like some of the rustier stuff, or I don't have the skills yet to weld it that good. I know I can do this with MIG, so that's what we're gonna do. So like I said, I'll weld all the way through. I'll hammer and dolly it, and then we're gonna grind the welds flat. And hopefully here shortly, we'll show you the finished off door panel repair. So as you can see from the time-lapse video, got the patch on, we've got it welded in place, I've got it ground. I put the door back on the car, had to drill out the hinge holes. They're just rusty, just run a drill through it. I've got 2 new hinge pins in it. Now, the bottom of the door, I had to basically shape back in again. I pretty much got it where I want it to be. Now, one of the things we were trying to do was, I mentioned I wanted to make the door the right length. The gap was even. At the end of the day, I didn't quite get the gap right. So what I'm going to have to do now is I will take some 1/8 filler rod here. I'm going to add some along the bottom of there, and then up in the front, I'll grind it off a little bit. I'm just trying to avoid that and make it simple, but I don't think I got the patch in there right. The good thing is I've got a really good finish on the patch itself. Not going to take very much body fill to fix that up, and then we'll move on to the next thing. One thing I'd mentioned before with the Camera Ladies 272Y block, this is a rebuilt engine I got from a friend, from a friend, from a friend. Engine was running. I have every reason to think that it's good. We cleaned it up. We've got some dress up parts onto it. And then over the time that I've had it, I used to spin the crank around and make sure everything was freed up. But then the last going off, I was spinning it around. I was getting a sticking spot. So kind of suspected that something was wrong. Maybe when I put the truck oil pan on there was some interference, but all the research I've done says no, not the case. So instead of ripping things apart, I just went on Amazon. I bought this $120 endoscope, and I took the spark plugs out. You can see the top of the cylinder right there and the cylinder walls. But what it was, there was a buildup of rust in one of the cylinders, and it was basically sticking all at the same spot every time. So I went inside with the vacuum cleaner and a hose here, sucked everything out, put a little bit of transmission fluid into it, each one of the cylinders, a couple of drops in there, ran it around a few times, and lo and behold, nothing sticks. So I think this was more of like a refreshed engine. So what I can see, when they rebuilt it, it looks as though they used the used pistons. There's no scores in the cylinder walls that I could see, but I also can see that it wasn't bored out. Somebody probably did a old school ridge reaming thing. So our plan is to run this kind of as it is. That's not what we normally do. I typically rebuild the engines, but this was, like I said, it was from a good friend that heard it running, and it was a good running engine. So we're going to actually try and run this as it is. Worst case, we'll pull her out and rebuild it, or I still have the 292Y block core over there, which was originally going to be rebuilt anyways. Either option, should this one not turn out well in the Camera Ladies Roadster. But it's a low horsepower engine. We're not looking for a whole lot of power out of it. Back in the early days, it was quite common for me to rebuild an engine, put new bearings, rings, and everything into it and run it for another 30,000 miles. And even having this engine, the valve covers off, and oil pan off, somebody went to great lengths to really clean the inside of this engine up. And it's got a brand new timing chain. Everything seems to be really tight, so we're going to give her a go. But anyway, it was worth spending the $125 for this borescope, endoscope. Used to use these at my daytime job. We had the high-end Zeiss ones for looking up inside of engine parts and stuff like that. But it was worth the money. Don't have to tear it apart, and we're going to move on to the next thing. Well, that's it for another week of Coldstream Rod Shop. We have the brake lines and everything all set up in the camera lady's car. Finally have the bottom of the door, the bottom patch of the passenger side door of Ellie's Coupe on. Still have to do a couple more tweaks, as I said earlier, but the basics are done right now. Everything is square. And then kind of putting my mind to ease on the Y block there after looking inside. And not really seeing anything seriously wrong with it. Really didn't think there was, but I kind of really wanted to be sure. So I waited and bought the endoscope to look inside of it. So now next up on that, what I'm going to do is finish running the spark plug wires and put the spark plugs on it. And then we will get the engine married up with the AOD transmission and the adapter there and get it ready to stick in the camera lady's car. Hopefully we'll do that next episode. But anyways, that's it for this week of Coldstream Rod Shop. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe. Send me your comments. And come on back next week and see what we're up to. Everybody take care and have a great week.